Welcome to WP-Tonic. We have a special show. We're just going to put up more of an announcement. It's 215 WordCamp Sacramento Review. I've got Jonathan Denwood and myself, Bill Conrad, and we got John Locke over from Sacramento, who actually was a speaker at the WordCamp and is from Sacramento. John, that was I'll tell you what, here's your review. That was a first-class event you guys put on. First class all the way. I mean, the email, the run-up to it, the speakers, we knew everything that was going on. It was excellent. I wish I could spend more time going to classes, but tell you what, the networking outside was wonderful, and the classes I did go to were excellent. So good job. So that's a good way to start. Jonathan, what you want to sort of shoot and say what you thought of it?
Oh, it's fantastically run. The Bournes were in full force. They kind of and with 10 Up as well, Jake, and also the student volunteers from the Art Center of California, Sacramento. It all went pretty smoothly, didn't it, for a first event? I thought. John, what did you think?
Yeah, I think that the organizing team, they really had it together. I think Jennifer and Brian, they did a lot of the organizing. They took care of a lot of the content and the emails, a lot of the last minute details. They were really on point. They did an excellent job. The print materials were just first class. Also, I think, the lead organizer, Bill Mead, and the other, students who are on the organizing team, Emily and Jen, they did, excellent. And Jake and Joe Boydston did an excellent job.
Thanks, Bill. Bill did a great job, didn't he? I forgot about that. He was a great host, and he did a fantastic job as well, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
I actually like the facility.
Yeah,
you guys were like,
go ahead.
You guys were like making, apologizing, but I sort of like it was wide, the rooms. It's the Art Institute in Sacramento.
Well, it had its strengths and it had its weaknesses. Location-wise, it's not bad, is it, John? And you've got plenty of parking. It's just that the kind of shape of the rooms aren't exactly ideal for what is needed, is it?
They had the audio, visual, 2 screens. Everything's modern.
Yeah. So I think everything should be up later on WordPress TV. As far as the layout of the rooms, I think they were just limited by the venue. The venue was what it was.
Yeah.
Though, by being wide, there were wide rooms and about 6 or 7 deep. By doing that, you felt close to the people, though, somewhat.
Yeah, true. That's normally like the larger room. That's normally 3 rooms that are blocked off by partitions, and all they did was just open it up. And what they did is they used what they had, and they made the most of it. And they had projection screens for each of the 3 sections, so everyone could see the slides. But I think it was intimate. You were still like very close to the speakers, in the large room. So
what was your favorite, John?
I didn't catch all the ones that I wanted to catch.
Me too.
I was just kind of busy with like a bunch of other stuff. But the ones that I did see, I was really impressed with Peter Chester's presentation on working with the team. Over there at Modern Tribe. I thought it gave me a lot to think about. And I also was really impressed with Jason Cosper's presentation on HHVM, because I think that's really going to revolutionize WordPress hosting. Facebook is already using it as a means to serve pages faster.
I know the one.
Can you explain the HHVM real fast? You went to it, right?
I watched them on live stream. I was doing some volunteer duties, so I was watching them on live stream.
I was actually there now. It's Twigged. Mm-hmm. The title is Way of the Future, isn't it?
That is the one.
So he was really talking about the Facebook and also PHP 7, isn't he? And the kind of performance, because obviously he works for WP Engine, doesn't he?
Correct.
He was talking about the quite considerable performance gains with PH7, but what's this? I think I got there slightly late. I missed the first 10 minutes. So, what's this Facebook? Can you give something about the Facebook alternative? Is it a kind of alternative to PH7?
As far as I understand, I mean, I could be wrong here, but Facebook, basically, they're still running on PHP, but they are really obsessed with speed because they understand that having optimal website performance is a key to conversions and keeping people using your platform. That's all part of user experience. So HHVM is something that they pioneered as a means to serve PHP even faster. PHP 7 it shows a lot of gains over PHP 5, the different versions. But as they brought up in the presentation, there's an awful lot of sites, an awful lot of servers out there that are using PHP versions that are no longer supported. So, and I think it's a really good point that if hosting is such an important layer of your website performance, that you're going to want to choose somebody that's forward thinking. With that.
Yeah.
HHVM, is it virtual machine design or something just in time?
Yes.
I wasn't there.
Yes.
And you're going to have to, the host is going to have to be able to manage it or work it?
Yeah, the host, yeah.
So what is it? Is it a kind of, is it something like Varnish or something that's put, or does it replace Apache, or is it something that's put on top of Apache that kind of communicates with the PHP and the Apache and accelerates things, or is it some kind of caching kind of platform?
As far as I understand, I think it's something similar to Varnish. I mean, it's something I'm still kind of learning about myself. So
yeah, it must be great to know it all, mustn't it? But we're just mortals, aren't we, John?
Absolutely.
I'm very mortal. I don't know about.
I'm extremely mortal. So.
I'm not sure about the wizard, though.
I'm tired.
Yeah,
wizards don't die.
Good today.
Yeah,
Jonathan was looking rough yesterday.
Yeah, it was a little bit, wasn't it?
Finally got well and not coughing.
Yeah, you were last time I seen you guys yesterday. You were hauling him off, so I didn't know if we were going to be toe tagging him today.
Yeah,
that's good. It's over.
Yeah,
I'm sick for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it was a really dry topic, but actually it was Zach Tolman, who's the chief engineer for Wire magazine, and he did HTTPS is coming. Are you prepared? And when you look at the title, you think it'd be a snooze fest, but actually he did a great job of keeping something that's pretty dry, keeping it at a level where people that knew nothing about HTTPS would get something from it, and if the people that did know something, they would still also get something, and he made it reasonably amusing. I did make a couple English jokes, but they didn't go down at all well. They just
that livens things up. English jokes.
Just been dead. He just looked at you. You just looked at me like I was dumb as arse. There you go.
Like you had 3 heads.
Yeah, exactly. But that was pretty good. And of course, we got to talk. I suppose we have got to talk about the big man in many ways.
Chris.
Chris Lima.
Yeah, I've got a 5-minute little intro. I taped his intro. It was so good.
Yeah, it was
Stanford.
Yeah, it was up to his normal standards. Would you say, John?
I wasn't able to catch that one. So why don't you tell me what your biggest takeaways were from that, Jonathan?
Well, it was subtle in some ways because he was talking about what did he talk about? That's a really good question.
He talked, first of all, he talked about Stanford, he gave an example of how a kid got into Stanford without being the straight A student because he went and focused on a certain thing.
Yeah, he was saying that you don't actually have to be the top to get a result. You just need some strategy in that works and sticks with it.
Well, what he led into with that, he talked about this kid who got in Stanford. He led into, well, I focused into membership sites. I spent all this time, months and 30 months. I became the very best at membership sites.
Oh, thanks. You've actually triggered my memory. I think the main point, John, was he was trying to point out is he could have talked about anything. He's quite capable of taking on any subject in WordPress, but he identified a subject that was niche enough but broad enough that wasn't overkilled already. Commented to death, blog-wise and in comments in general, and he zeroed in on it, and he really focused his considerable attentions upon that particular subject, and he kind of semi-dominates that, and seems to make a really nice living by just talking to people for 10 to 15 minutes on the telephone, Bill.
Yeah, he had, I think it was 170. I forget how many calls, 175 calls last month?
Yeah, at $6.
And the average like 15 minutes a call, 6 minutes a call. We figured like $18,000, $19,000.
Yeah, that's not bad, is it, John?
But, he hustles, he works, he's really friendly. He said, yeah, I'll come on the show.
Yeah, he's fine.
He asked I asked him about some plugins, some stuff, and it was good.
Yeah, you must have been amazed talking to you, Bill.
Hey, let me talk about my one class. The one class I actually went to two, Chris's, in the new age of content, and then I'll let you guys finish up and knock out a couple of other highlights and talk about what's coming up next. New Age of Content was by Craig Taylor out of Arizona, and he talked about all the things that we do. He talked about the social media. He talked about Blab IM. We were one of the few people that knew about Blab and taking Blab and doing what we do. It was about 3 or 4 people in the whole room. There are a lot of people there. And he just talked about the need to do exactly what we're doing, the podcast, communications, and the marketing, and how that's growing. And how blogging, how many people blog, and you got to define yourself away from that blog to do even more. I think that was Chris's. It was a good presentation, and it just showed all the things that you can do to enhance your business and get known and get out there.
Yeah, that's great.
And he has a marketing agency as opposed to a development agency per se.
Well, I really think that you have to be a good marketer. And I think that's almost like more important than being a good developer. But you need both. But you could be the best developer on earth, but if no one knows, or if they don't know what you specialize in, it's not going to do you any good.
That's true in everything. You can have a great product and not have marketing, you'll die. You can have a mediocre product with great marketing and you'll survive.
Correct.
True.
So it's a balance.
I actually do lean, I know it's purgatory, but I actually lean more to the marketer than the little bit. Well, because, I've got to say, Sally did a great job. She did have the last presentation of the Advance group, but I thought she did a pretty good job. I don't know, was you there at all, John, or was you in the other group?
No, that was right when I was giving my talk. So yeah, we were head to head. So please tell me about it. I was really looking forward to seeing Sally's talk later on WordPress TV. So please tell me about it.
Well, she was basically saying that we get kind of caught in that WordPress is pretty easy, but the reality is, a lot of users find it very difficult and find it very frustrating. And she was saying, I thought her strongest point, and I've always agreed with this, and I've disagreed with Morton on this point, is that I think what is seen as very usable UX design is linked to being familiar to another product, a similar product that a lot of people use, and they can utilize their experiences with the previous interface, and so they don't have to learn so much. And the example that she utilized was Word, Microsoft Word, and the more a kind of editor mimics what Word does, the more the user's going to be happy in a way, because they're not going to have to learn a kind of additional UX language. Because I personally feel that you can only go so far when you're dealing with a new UX interface with a visual language. There's only so far you can go in making it simple, because obviously it's got to have a certain degree of functionality, and there's only so far you can take it. So I feel a lot of people think that it's simple, but what they've done is they mimicked a previous well-known interface, and that they benefit from it or not. I was a bit long-winded. What do you think, John? Did that make any sense, or was I waffling?
No, that makes perfect sense. And actually, before you even said that it was similar to Word, that's exactly what I was thinking, because that's the interface that most end users are going to be experienced with, is something like Word. And they kind of expect all software to work in a similar fashion, meaning they could just type and it just works. And I think people get frustrated, and I'm not saying like WordPress developers or WordPress power users. I'm saying just regular people. They expect it to be that simple to use.
And there's a bit of a contradiction. I think it's going to rear its head quite considerably in the next year. Is obviously you've got the RESTless API, and you've got the ability to have very custom back-end interfaces. And that will be very contradictory to what Sally and others have pointed out, where you actually, a lot of users want a more, that their argument for doing that, John, will be that we're going to produce a very, very simple back-end, very customized for particular industry sectors. But I think that's a bit of a going down the wrong warren, really, because I actually think familiarity comes from it mimicking a very popular bit of software or a way of doing something. So it'd be really interesting to see how all this turns out, won't it, John?
Well, I think so. I think there's two sides to that argument. Well, one, WordPress is a very mature software now, and it's been around for almost 10 years. And so people have gotten used to having a back end that looks uniform. They know that the admin navigation is always on the left, and the way that things look is always the same. And that's why we're able to have like so many different themes and plugins, and they all kind of look similar. And there's a familiarity there. But I think to get WordPress to a larger market share and move closer to having more enterprise clients, having customizable backends might be a selling point, because if you make it look more, I don't want to say professional, but like a synonym like that, more custom. That might be good for certain industries.
I totally agree with you there. I think, funny enough, Chris Lemmer kind of touched on it as well, because when he was talking about when he was doing his analyzation of over 30 membership plugins, he said that some of them have almost 17 different option panels.
It's overwhelming.
Totally over, and we know, I'm not going to name it, but some of the more older ones are some of the. Are you all right, Bill? Or are you going to totally fall asleep?
Keep on going, John. I'm actually listening.
All right.
It's a long day, long 2 days.
Yeah, but he was saying that some of them have got very and some of it is that option. More functionality has been built on, and they've just added more options. And I think he's probably right about that. But also, I think if you do offer a lot of functionality, it's really a lot of time and money and energy really has to be kind of really placed in making something that is pretty complicated and ending up with a kind of option pane where you don't end up with 17. I don't think it's that easy. What do you feel, John?
Well, I definitely think that. I mean, for a developer, it might be good to have like a ton of options. But for the average user, when they get presented with 17 options on a screen, it's confusion. When you have that many options, you get paralysis, decision paralysis. And, that's 17 opportunities for them to make something go wrong. And I think that making things more clear, like on each page, is probably a better way than to have so many options, because it is confusing. Sometimes it's confusing for developers. So,
and I think what Sally was also pointing out, she was pointing out that she kind of using custom field types. She kind of tries to, because I have done some a long time ago, and I wasn't anyway a top, but I did a bit. Was Expression Engine, and Expression Engine uses field types to build kind of custom backends. And like if you going to insert a new image, you would have a field for the image which would be inserted into the template. And Expression Engine is very highly template based with its own kind of PHP kind of language. So it reminded me of that. But the problem is you get people that want a WikiWiz thing. You can never seem to satisfy everybody, and other people just want a field and upload the image and not have to bother with the interface. So I don't think it's so. There's a lot of grey in this. What do you think, John?
Well, I think that at least from what we saw like last year, the head honchos at WordPress probably do see the WYSIWYG editors like Squarespace, Wix, and Weebly as competition for that market share. And so I think that, a lot of things are kind of moving at least that direction, to have that option. And I think with the WYSIWYG, it needs to be done like in a way that's better than something like Visual Composer, which is very popular. But like it can be very, very overwhelming for the average user.
Yeah. But, well, she was talking about a front end, actually having a nice front end. And I went to the website, and their website was down, but she bought a developer. I forgot the name of it actually. But I think having a nice front end one that does doesn't try and do everything, but does what it does intuitively. And I think that could be of great benefit. So she was talking about that. And I think you kind of took me back when I first logged into WordPress, and it definitely isn't intuitive. And I had utilized Word, and I had kind of developed using Dreamweaver and done a bit of Expression Engine and graphic design. So I wasn't in any way, and I still would say, what does really pages and posts really mean to people? It doesn't, when you get used to it, you totally understand what it is. But when you hear it first, what does it mean? But I do think there's only so far you can take it, isn't there? So it's trying to find that happy medium. What do you feel about it, John?
No, I agree. I think if you're a new user, I think explaining like the difference between a page and a post is, I do think that's confusing to a normal user and anybody that's new to the WordPress ecosystem, because you're going to think just a page is a page. So there's always room for improvement. Yeah.
And I also think there could have been some kind of guidelines, because I think there's some plugins that have the kind of setting pane in the plugin pane. They have settings where sometimes it's under settings, sometimes it can be under tools, can't it? And sometimes it could be you get settings because it's a plugin that produces a widget, and you only get the so you can end up with settings almost 5 or 6 different places, can't you?
Oh yeah, totally. That is a common issue. Is that in the plugin market, there's no uniform place where settings or editing stuff shows up in the admin menu. Like everything is different, and that is really the thing with WordPress. Is every single configuration, it follows like a same basic outline, but each theme and plugin combination, it's completely unique. And
Yeah, that's what I liked about her presentation, because it does bring up, you could take it at the surface level and still get a lot from it. But
Hey, Jonathan, I want to keep this at 25 minutes. Let's wrap this up. I'm just saying one thing. We'll pass it around, and great show. But one that came up too is Russell Aaron from Las Vegas was there, and
Yes.
he's real active, of course. Great idea that came out. We're talking. I networked. I spent, other than 2 classes, I was out in the common area working on the computers and talking to folks. But Russell said, by the way, if you sit out like in the lunch and stuff, you can talk to Chris Lima. Out there, it's amazing what you do. WordCamps are great. That's why they sell out. But anyway, Russell, great idea for Nevada, and Vegas was very good. I wish I'd gone. You said I've heard nothing but great things about Las Vegas. Did you go, John, to Las Vegas?
No.
But I've heard nothing but good about it, and it was a good facility. Jonathan, you were down there, right?
Oh, it was well run, and they had a good buzz about it.
Anyway, so we can get, Nevada's a little smaller, but we're close, Northern Southern California. The idea is to have one up here in Reno in the mountains and one down in Las Vegas. But the one in Reno, they want to have a camp out on Thursday night, or maybe Friday night, or Thursday night, and then bring people in and do it in August, off season between the events. Maybe get the rooms around $35 downtown, like one of the casinos. Have some fun.
Yeah, maybe.
Get it all set up down there.
You guys need to jump in and start organizing it.
Now, well, Russell Aaron, I think, would be lead on it for both the state. And they said they can't use the word WordCamp Nevada, and just move it back and forth. It's got to be by city.
All right. All right, that's fair enough. But,
Maybe they can go Northern Nevada. Southern Nevada, Northern Nevada.
Well,
but anyway, John, why don't you finish up, and Jonathan will let you finish up.
Yeah, sure. Go on, John. You go.
So you ready for next year?
Oh yeah, totally ready for next year. From what I heard from Jennifer and Brian, they're going to try and get Sac State for the venue. Most definitely, they're looking at a larger venue, and they're also looking at a 2-day event next year. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
that would be nice.
I thought it was a great start, and if they decide to continue, I think it was the right venue for the start. And I think the organisation, the speakers, I think both. What's the term you use? Both channels, beginner and advanced. I think they were well thought out, and there was some crossover, and I think anybody coming, beginner or advanced, would get some excellent value from the day, don't you think, John?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I thought both the beginning track and the advanced track there is something for everyone there, and I think that's the good thing about WordCamps is you don't need to be an expert to jump on. You can learn something like no matter what level you're at. So
yeah, I think it was great. Yeah, Bill. Shall we end?
That was good. I agree. But at one point, we also brought a lot of new people over to this. Between Mike and us, we brought about 9 folks over from Reno.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
So the new folks. One thing I heard, though, was in the new classes, I think a couple of folks that came over, one in particular, maybe it was a little there. The marketing was good, but I think you got to have a certain level of expertise before you go to WordCamp.
And why do you say that?
I think you should already have had your own WordPress site, installed it. I talked to 2 guys. One guy seemed pretty new. He was a reporter, fairly well-known freelance reporter. And I think you have to have fundamental understanding of WordPress first to really get the benefits.
I see what you're saying about it would be good if you had your own site and installed it.
Just the basics, back panel, because they expect to know that, know what a plugin is, know what a theme is.
That makes sense.
I think some of the people knew, but I think the more you know, the more fascinating the WordCamps are.
True.
Yeah, I suppose they could have brought the Genius Bar. They could have just had a go and been shown how to set it up.
it's a, you know, WordPress to me is like, it's like the gymnast bar. I could say it's the puzzle master. There's so many different ways to do things. You've got the masters there, so you really can figure out things.
The wizard master.
The wizard master. We're the wizard of sound. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you.